I noticed that your guys are right next to the Atheist United tent. Is that awkward at all? Or?
No,
They're set up the tent.
Yeah, they helped us set up, and we offered to buy them tea and thanks. So, yeah, our own Christian tradition, United Methodist, is one of the more progressive Christian traditions, and we welcome people of all faiths, all backgrounds and all walks of life, and yeah, there's no need to be judgmental toward anyone, even atheists. There's some of the most kind people that I've met are atheists, so yeah.
We were talking to somebody earlier about gay marriage. Is there a stance that you guys take on that at all, or?
Well, my personal opinion, I'm gay and I'm married. So, and my partner and I have been together since 2007.
Okay.
So, as an entire church body, the United Methodist Church, which is the largest mainline Protestant tradition, there's a lot of different opinions, and we're learning to be in community with each other in spite of these differences, and to try to understand each other, and our theologies and our viewpoints, and still accept each other as sisters and brothers in Christ. Hopefully we'll continue moving in a particular direction, but I'm okay with where we're at right now. We're talking.
Based on who we've talked to, there seems to be some contention as to what the Bible actually says about homosexuality. Can you shed any light on that? Or, what does the Bible actually say?
Right. Well, first of all, the word homosexuality never appears in the Bible. The word homosexuality didn't exist until the late 19th century. So all of the places in which, the writer of Leviticus that's the passage where it famously says, if a man lay with a man as with a woman, they shall be put to death. If a woman lay with a woman as with a man, they shall be put to death. On and on and on. If you look later on in that chapter, it also says that if children are disobedient to their parents, they shall be put to death. If you mix, two different types of fabric together, then they shall be cast out of the city.
The polycotton blend. We've talked about this.
Right. Terrible things. And no one wants to go back to that, and not eating shellfish and these kinds of things. But they do point out the homosexuality clause. So there's some inconsistency, I think, in most Christian traditions. But in any case, all of the passages, there's either 6 or 7 passages that are translated now in contemporary Bible translations as homosexuality, even though that's a mistranslation. They all refer to cultures and practices that were tied in with worshiping other gods, or even in the case in Romans 1, which is a lot of Christians point to as being a slam dunk case against homosexuality. Paul talks about how people have started worshiping the creature instead of the creator, and he gets into all kinds of strange temple theology, and then he somehow connects that with homosexuality, and clearly it's not the context that today in 21st century we're not mixing homosexual acts with worship of pagan deities. The biblical writers didn't understand that some people had homosexual orientation. They believed that everyone was heterosexual, and of course if you're committing homosexual acts and you're heterosexual, that is unnatural and that's abnormal, and so they reacted against it. But for me, having heterosexual sex would be unnatural, and then also in the context, of these passages, especially in the New Testament passages, there were all kinds of dehumanizing acts that were connected with the homosexual acts. Men were selling themselves as prostitutes, and very degrading. And they were also, some didn't identify as homosexual, but they saw it as the next thrill, something to do. So again, these were not women and men who identified as homosexual and were living in covenanted, committed relationships like women and men are today. So it's really, the Bible doesn't address, in those passages, gay relationships. When you think about, the overall story of the Hebrew Scriptures and the Christian New Testament, that God is faithful. In the midst of our suffering and in the midst of our doubts and in the midst of our faithlessness, God is faithful and has committed God's self to us and asks us to do the same to each other. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. That's the Bible. So God is for covenant. God is for relationship and faithfulness. And,
So, where do you think all the animosity toward homosexuality comes from? Is that, where do they're getting at, apparently from the Bible, but why do you think they focus on that in particular?
I think we're getting it from ourselves, from our prejudices, our fears, people who don't identify as homosexual, seeing homosexual relationships as abnormal and unnatural. That, I believe, was the spirit in which those passages in the Bible were written, and that's the spirit in which we read them today. So, just like passages in the Bible have been used to justify, slavery or not viewing genders and races with equality, those things were in us before we read the Bible, and they colored the way that we read the Bible. I think that people are very mistaken about what the Bible actually says and what the Bible actually is.
I'm coming to greatly agree with you on that.
It's not a book of, do this and you're good. Believe this and you're okay. That's not what the Bible is. The Bible is a collection of writings about the history of the Jewish people, suffering all of these unbelievable occupations by the Babylonians and the Assyrians, and still remaining together as a community with the hope and the expectation that their God will be faithful to them, even when they're occupied by the greatest, armies of the day. And when Christianity became a distinctive and distinct sect within Judaism, they were being occupied again by the Romans this time. And Jesus was killed, because the Romans saw him as a threat to their power and their domination. Because he said, there's something even greater than the Roman army, and that's God, and God will be faithful long after Rome dies away. So, if people read the Bible as a narrative of God's love and God's inclusion and God's care for all creation, and not as a book of commandments, that you should do this and you shouldn't do that, I think that some of these unjust issues like, opposing gay marriage would vanish.
Just out of curiosity, what is the Methodist Church's stance on gay marriage? Are they against it, or I don't know?
Officially, they are against it,
okay.
Yes. But that doesn't keep many, many faithful United Methodists from saying, this isn't right. Jesus' message of inclusion is not being, followed by a certain segment of our population.
What is your motivation to stay in that organization if they think that your lifestyle is somehow wrong?
If you left, institutions and organizations just because you didn't agree with them and never tried to change them, there would be even more corrupt institutions than we have today. So, yeah, I'm an advocate for change in the United Methodist Church.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I think it's safe to say if every Christian thought like you, I don't think I'd be worried. So,
You know,
thank you.